All sports, all plays. Yeah. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we making a plays. You talking the game, get you through the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety, topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. In the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, they working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays.
Good morning. Happy Monday morning. Beautiful day here in the United States. As always, you are joining ASAP in the morning. It is 10:04 on the East Coast. It is Monday, October 10th, and I'm joined by Ray, as always. Hello, Ray. How you doing? How was your weekend?
My weekend was okay, except for Sunday. You know, Jaguars lost to the Texans 13-6. We know the Trevor Lawrence issues, and we know the big penalty on that 3rd and 20 play. But my college team did win down at Miami. North Carolina won 27-23, won by 4. The big interception that towards the end of the game to seal the thing. So at least I got 1-1. At least I'm 500 this weekend with my two football teams. So
hey, that's not bad. That's not bad. I as well 500 with my teams this weekend, so it's always good. We'll hear. I'll don't worry. When Frankie the Yankee joins us later on this morning, I won't hear the end of it about the Lions and the Patriots. So I'm going to save my takes for a little bit later. But while we're waiting for the rest of the guys to join this morning, hey, go hit that like, that share, the comment button. Let us know where you're watching from today, what platform you're watching on, and how your team did this weekend. So let us know. We're live this morning on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. You can find us on all those platforms you see on your screen now. And of course, it's scrolling at the bottom of the screen. On YouTube, you can find us ASAP Sports Network, on Facebook at All Sports All Plays, on Twitter at ASAP Network 1, and on Twitch at ASAP Network. Hit the like, hit the share, hit the sub button. It always helps out for sure. We got a few subscriber goals we're trying to hit for the different platforms. We're just shy of 800 subs on YouTube, trying to hit that 800 all the way through onto that 1K mark to hit that first big milestone for the network. On Facebook, we've got about 9,000 follows, so we want to hit that 10K. We appreciate everybody's support. But hey, here we are. This morning, of course, we got to talk about the NFL. That's going to be the first big topic we talk about. And I kind of don't know where to start because there was a lot of intriguing stuff that happened this weekend. You had the Cowboys dominate the defending champion LA Rams in LA, and you could hear a lot of the Cowboys fans in the stands through that game. You've got the big controversial call in the Bucs Falcons game on Tom Brady, the roughing the passer, that not really sure that was roughing the passer at all. Obviously your game with the Texans and the Jaguars, which was kind of surprising to Jaguars fans, given how well they've played over the last few weeks. But let's kind of dive into some of those. Who is your biggest winner of all the NFL games so far this weekend after week 5?
I think Philly's win over the Commanders, keeping them undefeated, is surprising because people are going into the season and think Jalen Hurts was going to be this good at this point of time, and it's been surprising through that. But also, what gives a surprise is Cooper Rush, still undefeated as a starting quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. Now the question is for all you Cowboy fans. Is it time when Dak Prescott gets ready to come back, will y'all make that switch and go back to a losing way? Or does Cooper Rush keep through the performance he has, he's got the command of the team. And you know how when injured players come back, the chemistry together doesn't gel right away. So you could go from having a team that is gelled right now with the Cooper Rush situation to going back to Dak Prescott. I know he's got the money and stuff like that, but do you want to mess up your chemistry right now as the Cowboys fan? And you got to keep pace with the Philadelphia Eagles. That's that's going to be the question. Because if you go back and you take another loss and the Eagles keep winning, you're going to be 2 games behind the Eagles and no way and trying to catch up to them. That means you're going to have to try to defeat them twice. And going up in Philly, it's a hard place to do it. So right now, the 2 surprises I have is the Eagles undefeated, only team undefeated right now. The 1972 Dolphins remaining members are ready to uncork that champagne when they take that first loss. They keep that tradition going. Even since Don Shula has passed away, they still keeping the name with the remaining people alive. The only undefeated team in 1972, Dolphins to win the Super Bowl. So they're waiting for that last loss of the Eagles so they can uncork that champagne. But right now, the Eagles are not looking like a team that is not going to lose any. And also, another surprise, too, is the LA Rams. How good they were last year, but losing, I think, Odell Beckham Jr. has left this team in disarray. Matt Stafford only has Cooper Kupp. He doesn't have – team can double-team Cooper Kupp, and they have stopped the LA Rams.
Yeah, I think one of my biggest winners from this last weekend, I agree. I think the Cowboys and in the manner in which they beat the Rams very convincingly. We'll kind of talk about them as standalone in a few minutes, but they're one of my biggest winners from the weekend. The other big winner, I think, is the New York Giants. The New York Giants playing in London. They advanced to 4-1. Green Bay drops to 3-2, but I think that's a big winner for me is the fact that they're keeping pace with the Eagles, with the Cowboys. If they can sustain it, that remains to be seen. And I know conventional wisdom, or I should say conventional media, has really kind of dubbed that the Giants were not going to be good this year. I, for one, did not think the Giants would be a 4-1 start, definitely. But they're one of my big winners. I mean, the way they were able to come out and disrupt the Packers offense and on their offensive side of the ball, they were able to just do what they needed to do to win. They scored 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, to take that game. I think that 4-1 start, Brian Dable deserves a lot of credit. So I think they're one of my biggest winners from week 5. On the other side, you already mentioned the Rams. And they're one of your biggest losers from the NFL weekend.
Yes. I mean,
what other losers you got from the weekend?
The way the season has gone so far, right now the Jaguars is one of the biggest losers of this weekend due to the fact that they lost to an unwinnable team of the Texans. But given Jaguars' history, they haven't beaten the Texans since 2017. 9 straight games. Well, you look at it too. 9 straight games against Texas. We have 8 straight games against the Indianapolis Colts, who we got next week up in Indianapolis. But the Jaguars has the capability to go to Indianapolis and win that game. Right now, Indianapolis is favored by 1.5 points. I don't understand that because Jaguars shut them out. But anyway, I'm glad. I don't want the Jaguars to be favored in any more games. No, because when they were favored against the Texans, they lose. If they're not favored in a game, they play much better. They have much focus. But also, I'm gonna ask this question real quick, and I want to get your opinion on this.
Yeah,
is Sean McVay on the hot seat right now?
No. Quick answer, no. I don't think he's on the hot seat because it's not necessarily just, a lot of it does fall on the coach eventually, but there's a lot of problems that the Rams have. Watching how they run their offense. Yes, there's Cooper Kupp. They did try to get the ball to Allen Robinson. They tried to get him more involved. You could chalk it up to play calling as much as you want, but when the third play of the game, your offensive line breaks down, strip sack fumble, DeMarcus Lawrence picks it up, scoop and score. I think that set the tone for the game. And that's really been, unfortunately, the MO for the Rams all season long already, 5 games in. I think the biggest problem they have to address is not losing Odell Beckham Jr. Sure, that hurts. The offensive line is the biggest problem. They can't protect Matthew Stafford at all. They can't. I was watching some film breakdown of that game earlier this morning, and you've got Micah Parsons on one side, who's in one-on-one against the right tackle. And then they run a simple stunt. Defensive tackle starts on the right side of the center, pushes to the left guard. So now the center's got to take him, and now the right guard, the guy he's expecting to block, is on the left side of the offensive line. He's like, do I cover Micah Parsons and leave him one-on-one? And there's nobody here right now. Well, then that other defensive end comes screaming around that stunt, and he was untouched. Pressure right up the middle. Stafford evaded the sack, but had to step up, force a throw. I think it fell incomplete. That was just a precursor of what the Cowboys defense was able to do the entire game. They were able to generate a ton of pressure. Teams have been able to generate a ton of pressure on Matthew Stafford and the LA Rams offensive line. And I think that's the biggest reason why they're losing games right now. I don't think, of course, the defense can only hang on for so long, but if the offense can't maintain drives and they can't establish the run, they can't stay on the field and convert on third down, that's going to put your defense in a really, really tough predicament. And they can't hold for that long. You've traded away all your first round draft picks. You've signed all these big name guys. You haven't been able to you got lucky on some of the depth, but you haven't been able to maintain that depth on your offensive line. So I think that's been a big reason why the Rams look just as bad as they do. So I don't think Sean McVay is on the hot seat. You just won a Super Bowl last year. You generally get at least a year's leash, maybe 2, depending. But I think Sean McVay has done enough that he'd have to have 2 seasons of this season and next season, in order for him to even be considered on the hot seat, in my opinion. And I could be wrong. Let me know. If you feel differently in the comments, please let us know. But that's how I see it with Sean McVay. Because he's shown that he can have success, and he's shown that he's been able to do it with Stafford. Stafford's health is another question that, that we can talk at a different time. But how this Rams team is set up, their offensive line is in desperate need of help. And I don't know where it's going to come from. I don't know if it means a trade. I don't know what that is, but the Rams desperately need offensive line help, or else we're going to see a lot of this from Stafford and the Rams the rest of the way this season.
Yeah. And then on this part too, if you look at it too in this game, we'll talk about when we have Frankie on here. I want to talk, but anyway, I want to talk about this one little aspect of this game. The Dallas Cowboys didn't beat them in the passing game. They beat them on the running game.
Mm-hmm.
So the running game will take Aaron Donald out of the picture, because Aaron Donald's not good against the run. Most good pass rushers are not good against the run. They ran the ball 34 times, 163 yards. Pollard only carried the ball 8 times for 86 yards. Elliott carried the ball 22 times for 78 yards. So the defense is not doing anything, and you had Jalen Ramsey supposed to be a lockdown corner. He had two tackles and 1 sack, and that's it. But I think what it's hurting them is, I think somewhere in that defensive line is they don't have a run stopper, because the last few teams have been running against the Rams. And Sean McVay came out and stated, saying that they need to go out and find more help for Matthew Stafford, and that's showing up the offensive line. Because they lost that one good offensive lineman from last year. He's not there. He retired. So
Yeah.
that's the missing link right there. They didn't find a replacement for him.
Yeah, they lost Whitworth. They gave Havenstein a contract extension earlier in the late offseason, really early in the season. But yeah, they haven't really been able to fulfill that role, that Whitworth, that void that he left.
Yeah.
But you had mentioned about the Dallas Cowboys. I think a lot of that credit should go to Mike McCarthy and the coaching staff, because when Dak goes down, this team looks so much different than they did week 1 with Dak in the game. Your play calling was different. Just everything about this team was different. And now, 5 weeks into the season, you've got Cooper Rush, your backup quarterback, running the play calls. And I think this game, Cooper Rush didn't really do a whole lot, right? So you mentioned they didn't really throw the ball a ton because they didn't need to. What Mike McCarthy and the coaching staff has done is they said, hey, we're gonna remake our identity, and we're gonna run the football. We're gonna play tough defense. We're gonna get to the quarterback, and we're gonna put ourselves in positions that we're not gonna make Cooper Rush go out and have to be Dak Prescott, because he's not Dak Prescott. And I think that's the biggest credit to why the Cowboys have had as much success since Dak went down, is the fact that they changed their identity. They're running the ball more. You mentioned Tony Pollard. Pollard has looked great the last couple of weeks. And even Zeke Elliott, he had 22 carries. He's not getting the yards per carry average that he used to get anymore, but that's just not him. And Mike said the Cowboys have the best backup of the NFL in Dak. I think they have the highest priced backup right now. Absolutely. I don't know. I don't know what that's going to mean when Dak comes back, obviously, as much as you're paying him. And we've talked about this on the show previously, in the previous weeks, about when Dak comes back. When Dak comes back, you're going to have a decision to make. Do you still roll with Cooper Rush? Or do you let him just kind of make his mistakes, and then if he does falter, put Dak back in? That's where this coaching staff is going to have to get creative. And personally, how I think they would go about it is, if I'm Mike McCarthy and Dak comes back, tell him, Dak, look, I know you get paid a lot of money. You're the quarterback. You're the face of this team right now. But you see the success that we've had the last couple of weeks with you being out. We ran the football. We established the run, and we're able to do it effectively, and we played solid defense. We don't have to air it out like we were when you were the quarterback. If he can go in and adapt, Dak Prescott can adapt, I think the Cowboys can sustain the success that they've had. If they go and revert back to the way they were when Dak Prescott was the quarterback week 1, I think Dallas starts falling in the standings, and they're trying. You're talking about that chemistry that guys develop, and just in a couple weeks they've remade their identity. A lot of credit, but now the question is going to be, when Dak comes back, are you going to continue that identity, or are you going to change your identity mid-season completely when you're sitting possibly first or second in the NFC East? Because there's a big matchup against the Eagles this coming weekend. How are they going to look after that? Are they going to make Dak adapt to them, or are they going to adapt to Dak?
Well, and another side note with that too is you don't want to rush Dak Prescott back with a thumb injury, especially if he's going to been out 6 to 8 weeks. They trying to get him back within 4 weeks. Right. You don't want to rush. Now they even got to rush to him. They can tell him, hey, look, you need to take the full 8 weeks. We got this right now under control. But, I mean, you got also, too, now when Dak gets back on the active roster, now teams got to prepare for Cooper Rush and Dak Prescott, because you don't know which one they're going to play. So if I was them, I'll use that as a decoy to get the Eagle when they get up to the Eagles and say, "Hey, I don't know which one to prepare for. I don't know if Dak's going to play because he's on the roster, or is Cooper Rush going to play." So now you got to adapt to both system, and that could cause a little bit of a mismatch for the Eagles because they couldn't figure out who they got to play. So they had to prepare for both guys. So that's another added advantage too, because Dak Prescott can beat you with his arms and his legs. Cooper Rush can't only beat you with his arm. He's not a running quarterback, you know. So now you get that sprinkle of that mixture in, and now teams got to prepare for both. But also the comment by Jerry Jones is too. He welcomes a quarterback controversy. He's got one now. So
Jerry Jones just welcomes anything that gets your name, like the Cowboys' name, in your mouth. That's what Jerry Jones is all about.
Yeah.
Because he knows it leads to the dollars. That's the most expensive sports franchise in the United States.
Right.
So absolutely, he's going to say whatever he needs to keep the Cowboys' name in people's conversations, like we're doing right now. That's what Jerry Jones wants. He really doesn't want a quarterback controversy. He just wants to win. And he wants to keep the Cowboys' name relevant and win. If you can do that both at the same time, then Jerry's happy, I think. I wanted to kind of address this comment that you put up here earlier from Mike. Golf has live if the Saudis want to invest in a football league and willing to pay top NFL talent and all that. Is that a potential issue for the Shield? I honestly am. I'm kind of. I wouldn't say stumped. I'm kind of flabbergasted at that comment. There is no football. American football is not as popular as the NFL wants you to believe outside of the United States. It's not. Now, if the Saudis, if this potential situation were to come up with another US based league, then they would likely buy out an XFL or something. It's not going to happen. It's really not. I don't even think that's a conversation. If it does, sure, we can address it. But there's too much. It's not like the PGA and their hold on the game of golf, and that the NFL's way bigger than that. They're way bigger than that. They've got their hands in way more things than the PGA Tour does.
Well, PGA Tour, and give you that too. The PGA Tour does go overseas a lot too, so they get the exposure overseas. So that's why the Saudis got involved in the golf, because it's been explored overseas. Now they getting their hands into it, and then they're buying players, with millions and millions of dollars. But then again, they went after Tiger Woods. Even Tiger Woods is kind of washed up right now. They even went after Tiger Woods and say, "Hey, bring your son over here. We'll give you this X amount of dollars." But Tiger Woods is always loyal to the person that feed him his hand most of the years. He said no. But Phil Mickelson, he's greedy. So yes, he's gonna go over there. You're gonna buy him because he's looking for the money.
Hey, if you're a golfer and you get paid a stupid ton of money to play less, I think we would all agree that you take it. Tiger didn't need to worry about that.
No,
he doesn't really need to. And the fact that they just were trying to go after him for name brand recognition, much less the actual product that he would bring to the golf course. So to come back to the original point, I don't think that a Saudi-based company investing in an American football league is going to happen or would even be sustainable to try to match up wits with the NFL. All right. Well, here he is. Better late than never. Welcome this morning, Frankie the Yankee. He's riding high with the Yankees playing tomorrow. His Patriots won yesterday, I should say, in convincing fashion. Good morning, Frankie. How you doing?
Good morning, boys. I'm doing absolutely fantastic. My boys with the throwback Patriot jerseys,
Those look nice.
out shutting out the Detroit Lions, the so-called high-scoring offense in the NFL currently. It's phenomenal. I'm doing fantastic. And not only that, ladies and gentlemen, the Padres have eliminated my redheaded stepchildren, the New York Mets. What an amazing way to end the night. And then I just realized this morning, waking up and saying, "Oh, I'm coming on the morning show," and I noticed Ray was gonna be there, and I just wanted to ask Ray for a minute. How are you feeling, Ray? How does it feel to be a Jaguar fan on top of your division and you lose to the Houston Texans? Oh man, what a beautiful Monday.
See, you can drop all you want to. I'm like when you tell the quarterback you got to have a short memory. That's what I got. I got a short memory as a fan. Yeah, they did that, but you also got to think about the turning points in this ball game too. We had a boneheaded play by the freaking defensive linebacker, and Trevor Walker made a rookie mistake throwing the quarterback down on 3rd and 20. Yeah, they had an offside. It would have been 3rd and 15. But still, it would have been a 3rd and 15, not a first automatic first down. And then you get the boneheaded fans that come out and say, "Oh, Trevor Lawrence lost his game for us." Trevor Lawrence was part of the loss, but the biggest loss was Trevor Lawrence did not play defense. Trevor Lawrence did not miss 6 tackles on one guy to get all the way to the 1-yard line.
Hey,
Oh, that's a
Frankie,
beautiful sound. That's a beautiful sound. And to make it even better, Craig, he was there live at the stadium.
I was just gonna say, Frankie, congratulations. He said he wasn't gonna get into it, and then he just went. He fell for your trap, Frankie. He fell
Yes.
for it. But the AFC South is a tough division anyway, regardless of records. Take a look at that. Take a look at that game however you want to, but that division is always, whether there's all 7 and 9 trying to fight for the division title, or there's 8, 9, 10 wins, you got one dominant team. There's always a lot to play for in the AFC South. We're also joined this morning by Jay McLovin.
He
Good
disappeared.
morning, Jay.
Cowboys. Just, I always tell myself every year, Jay, you're not gonna go down the delusional Super Bowl thought process. You're not gonna do it. You're not gonna do it, Jay. You're gonna keep things in perspective. And my perspective is the Cowboys are playing nice. We're 4-1. We took out a pretty good team over there with Matt Stafford and company. Our defense is probably one of the best in the league right now. Offense, not so much, but defense definitely quite so. Cooper Rush, he's doing what he did. He didn't have to do a whole hell of a lot. Just don't turn the ball over. And I think that's what he did. And, again, when Dak comes back, he's going to go back. Personally, I'd ride Cooper Rush until the wheel fell off. But still, man, what a time to be alive. Good job, Cowboys. You didn't screw it up.
Yeah, we were talking. Ray and I were talking this morning about the biggest winners and losers from NFL Week 5. One of those biggest winners being the Dallas Cowboys, and kind of how they've changed their identity. They've been able to establish the running the football, play some solid defense. I give a lot of credit to that team for being able to change after Week 1. All right, we got to adjust on the fly here with a new quarterback, and they've been able to have a winning producing formula that now you have a decision to make when Dak comes back. Do you adapt back to the way you played in Week 1 with Dak at the helm? Or do you tell Dak, hey, this is the way that we want to establish our team identity now, and you've got to fit in? So that's one of the conversations that we were just having before you guys jumped on this morning. So, Jay, from your guys' perspective, what do you think has been the biggest credit for the Cowboys' success since Dak Prescott went down in Week 1?
Yeah, absolutely. Before you say that, if I do want to say one thing real fast. If you're going to change Dak, like the Broncos tried to change Russell Wilson, then the product you're going to receive is not going to be what you want, because that's just not who Dak is. And trying to make Russell Wilson a pocket passer when he's a mobile guy just didn't work for them either. With that being said, I think you work to the strengths of Dak, or you get another quarterback. By that same token, what do I think is a difference in this Cowboys team? I think it's Dan Quinn getting the most out of this defense. I think D-Law obviously clearly is maybe last year he said he was hurt. Maybe he really was hurt, and maybe this is a healthier version of D-Law. Then you got Armstrong coming in and getting his tackles. and sacks, and then you got Michael Parsons doing his thing. And, you know, you get a Trayvon Diggs who, to his credit, can get you the interceptions when needed, but also to his detriment, can get burnt. But I think I think that this defense has just bought into Dan Quinn's system, and I think they're healthy and they got the right edge pieces to make it work. And that defense is just stellar right now.
Yeah, absolutely. We're talking about how they were able to get to Matthew Stafford and the Rams into the backfield, generate a ton of pressure, generate some fumbles, and just that offensive line for the Rams not looking like it did last year. That definitely lacking on the offensive line for that team right now. And if that cannot get fixed, the Rams are going to be on the bottom, near the bottom of the division, looking up at the rest of the NFC West. So that's going to be a really interesting scenario to watch. But looking forward now, the Cowboys 4-1. We mentioned the Giants are 4-1, and the Eagles are 5-0. Question the decision making by the Cardinals at the end of that game all you want. The result is the Eagles are still 5-0, and now that puts together. We'll preview it later this week, but that puts together now a huge matchup in the NFC East. The undefeated Eagles against the 4-1 Cowboys coming up this weekend for sure. But one of the, I don't know if we were kind of talking about some other things around the league, and I don't know how much you guys have had a chance to see this. I know Ray and I were talking about this before the show, but one game in particular we do want to touch on is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Atlanta Falcons. That game that happened, the Falcons were down 21-7 with about just under 5 minutes left in the game. Marcus Mariota and company, they march down the field, they score, get the 2-point conversion, and they need one stop on 3rd and 5 with about 3 minutes to go near midfield. Jarrett gets the sack, rolls Tom Brady over, and a flag comes in for roughing the passer. Now, Frankie, I'll start with you if you're available. I'll start with you from this perspective. And we know Tom Brady has been the recipient of some generous flags here and there. And I'm a huge Tom Brady fan, big Michigan guy. But in this game, how big is it that, or what did you make of that call by the refereeing crew?
Yeah, honestly, it was insane to me, but it's Tom Brady. He's gonna get his calls his way every time. It doesn't matter, as a Patriot fan, and he, as a Tom Brady lover, just like you, Craig, it always goes down in Tom Brady's way. I saw the same thing happen like that during our game between the Patriots and the Lions, where Bailey Zappi got sacked and it got called for a roughing the passer call as well. And when I looked at the replay, I didn't see no roughing the passer. I honestly, I don't know what they were seeing in that play. So when that play came up against Tom Brady, it just threw me off, and it's just typical, And it's really sad for me to say it because, like I said, I'm a huge Tom Brady fan. But when the game is on the line like that, and you're getting a good ending to the game, you got to let it play out, man. If he's sacked. Don't call roughing the passer just because of how he went down. We all know Tom Brady knows how to sell things, and Tom Brady sells it in a really good way. So it's really sad to see that it went roughing the passer because, honestly, Marcus Mariota and company were looking pretty good at the end of that game, and we could have got a really good ending to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Ray, I know you're shaking your head up there. We had talked a little bit about this in the backstage, the pre-show here. Your thoughts on the flag and the implications that it had?
Are we playing flag football? That's what Tom Brady wants to play, flag football. The dude tackled him, a normal tackle, did not put the NFL say if you put your body weight on him, they're going to call the penalty. I understand that. He did not put his full body weight on him. He rolled him to the ground. If you want to see a quarterback roughing the quarterback, look at the Jaguar and Trevon Walker when he slammed the dude to the ground. That's a roughing the passer. That is roughing the passer. But the roll of him, and then I listened to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers play-by-play guy. Great guy. He used to be the Florida State play-by-play guy. He retired. He stayed with Tampa. But he said that he stepped on his ankle. I looked at the replay. He did not step on his ankle. Brady kept the kick. And you even stated that later on, if you look at the thing really close, and Mike Greenberg said it on the ESPN, Get Up, is Brady was kicking him. So if you're going to call a roughing the passer, you should have called unsportsmanlike conduct on Tom Brady.
Oh, God. Sounds like you're really upset today, Ray. I'm pretty sure it's because the Jaguars lost to the Texans, and I'm really sorry. But you leave Tom Brady alone. He didn't kick no one, damn it. It was roughing the passer.
No, Tom Brady played flag football.
All right.
Brady, I'm going to tell you what. Tom Brady could not play in the 80s football era. He could not play in the 80s football era.
If I can weigh in real quick, can somebody please take me back to 1976, please? Well, when I was 4 years old and football was a grown man's sport, and when people went out there to earn their paychecks, they went out there to earn their paychecks.
$100 of it.
Hey, I don't care what it is. If that's 1976 economy, it's 1976 economy. I can't do nothing about that. But I'm going to say this. At what point are we messing with the integrity of the game so much that, like Ray said, it's flag football? I mean, there's nothing to look. You can't look body weight when you're going down in the tackle in motion. Okay, things happen, man. That's why it's called tackle football. You can't tell me he put the body weight because they're in the motion of tackling. There's nothing no body weight. It's not like he just sat there and stared him down and taunted him after he did. He tackled them, they rolled over, they got up, and they went about their separate ways. There's nothing wrong with that. The problem is the integrity of the game. In my opinion, the integrity of the game is in question. Everybody knows that was a perfectly normal tackle. Everybody knows it. The NFL knows it. The refs know it. The Players Association knows it. Tom Brady knows it. And again, the integrity of the game, in my opinion, is really starting to come into question. And you can see the integrity of the game from the ownership level and what they're doing in the ownership levels and all the scandals that are going on there, all the way down to the bottom to the game and the refs. It's all integrity.
Well, you had mentioned, Jay, that even the referees, everyone knows it. So I have here on the screen the quote from referee Jerome Boger, who told the media after Sunday's game, the only thing that was unnecessary with the situation was Jarrett's way of taking Brady to the ground. His quote, "What I had was the defender grabbed the quarterback while he was still in the pocket and unnecessarily threw him to the ground. That is what I was basing my decision upon." And I think that kind of now begs a little bit of the question then, is that you look at how I think what really happened here is since Tua was thrown down in a similar yet much more forceful manner, I think we can all agree on that. I think since that happened, the referees, whether I think Tom Brady was involved or not, are now looking more closely at these types of plays to potentially try to protect players.
But hey, look, he did not use the crown to take him down. He did not, I'm sorry, but the last time I checked, it takes force to take somebody down.
And he didn't take him down by force.
But you look, football is a force game. It makes no sense to me.
Dude, he when he took him down, he was twisting him. That was not force. Force is what Trevon Walker did to the freaking quarterback of the Texans. He threw him down. He took him down like he was The Rock with a freaking The Rock's move. With the one-handed, he did it with the Undertaker's move, the one-handed choke slam.
Rock bottom.
Yeah. So I mean, he did a one-handed choke slam on him.
$300 million, $400 million, $500 million, whatever it is you're getting paid, suck it up, Buttercup.
Dude, I'm gonna tell you, if Tom Brady played in the era with LT, Lawrence Taylor, he would never make it.
We're not going down that road because those are different generations and players adapt to how the game is called. NBA is the same way. If you have a guy like LeBron, he can't do it in the 80s. Damn right, yes, he could have, because he's a big, strong, fast, athletic dude. Tom Brady and company, those quarterbacks would have adapted properly. We're not going down that road this morning. We can talk about the referees. That's fine. This is not going to devolve into.
Can I just say one thing? And I'm not going down the rabbit hole, but I am going to say this: if Tom Brady was playing back in the day, he would not be Tom Brady. He'd be an average, maybe I'm not going to say average, but he'd be a good quarterback. But he ain't putting up some Tom Brady like numbers because they're not going to let Tom Brady get away with half of what Tom Brady got away with. So to say that, I get what you're saying, but you're not getting away with half what Tom Brady got away with. His legendary status wouldn't be legendary.
All right, I understand the precedent that you're going for here, but you're talking also different game.
There's proof.
You're talking a different game. They throw more than they've ever thrown before. So yes, the game was way different. Tom Brady would be a different quarterback back then. That we can agree on because it's how they had developed everything. So Damien's in mid-season form already this morning. NFL is rigged to protect Brady and Rodgers because of the face of the NFL. I know that the referees they really struggled this weekend in many different games. And that's a conversation we've talked about. I know you guys have probably talked about on this show for a long time. For multiple years, the referees, even going back to when they had the strike and the replacements came in, it seems like the product and the quality of refereeing has dropped significantly in the last few years. And that now begs the question, what's the NFL like? What has the NFL got to do here to try to save the integrity of the game? As you guys are talking, Ray, I see you wanted to jump in.
Yeah, about that NFL and the referee situation. The NFL went out and hired these referees now so they can teach them the right way to call games. What are they teaching them then? If they're not teaching them, are they bringing them back after each game and reviewing the tapes and saying, hey, this call you made is kind of a mistake. He didn't really force them down like that, like you think. They need to hire these NFL guys and every game critique them with them like players go watch tapes after every game, to critique and say, hey, this is what you need to correct. This is what you need to do. They need to do the same thing to the referees. They need to hire them full time. They need to take them after every game, bring them into a location, even if it's in New York or the NFL place, review the games with them and say, hey, okay, you made this call. And have them explain to why their thought process, and then correct that thought process. Say, hey, no, look at this tape. This is what we're talking about, throwing the quarterback down, not the way this guy did it. You got to have these NFLs got to be the same way. You got to hire them full time. You got to critique them. You got to bring them in and watch games by games with these guys and correct their thing. If you don't correct them, they're going to keep calling the same thing over and over. And if you watch the NFL games, each referee have different set of rules that they are following, really. Because if you look at some of the things, Philly, talking about the offensive line pushing the ball carrier. The Jaguars started doing that yesterday, and they were still moving, and the referee blew the whistle dead, so they made it go 4th and short instead of being the first down. If you look at the games, every referee has a set of different rules that they follow. Everybody's not following the same guidelines because one game you have one call this way. Okay, you adapt to that way. Now you got another set of referees come in. They're not doing them justice. They have to get the referees on the same page, and by doing that, they have to bring them in, hire them full time, and treat them like they're a freaking ball team. Show them what they're making mistakes on.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest step. Go ahead, Frankie.
Ray is full on mad with the Jaguars. Every segment we're talking about, he's bringing the Jaguars into it. I could hear it in his voice. He's so upset. But I also agree with what Ray said. The referee, they got to change. It's been going on for years now where they're messing up calls. And I take it back all the way to the Saints in the playoffs where they made a horrible call and where the Saints could have honestly made it to the Super Bowl that year with maybe the one last time where we would have probably seen Tom Brady versus Drew Brees in the Super Bowl. But the referees is insane to me. I think they need to be checked on as well. And it's just not in the NFL. It's everywhere in the league. I feel like referees are messing up big time, and it's just messing up the sports for us all over.
Yeah, when you get referees basically deciding games with momentum changing calls in critical situations, that's a problem that the league's going to have to address. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Interesting. Maybe the ref should get some integrity when he makes a bad call like he did, and then tries to explain his bad call as if he doesn't know that he made a bad call. Hey, why don't you just go on ahead and say, hey, look, you know what? That wasn't roughing the pass. I know it's not roughing the pass. I'm gonna give you an excuse because I don't want it to look bad, but at the same time, I knew just own up to your mistake. Everybody knows it. Everybody sees it. Everybody but you. So own up to it. Integrity and what Ray said. They need to be held accountable, brought into a room, and tell me what exactly was roughing the passer on Tom Brady. What did you see? Because I'm not seeing it.
And he did say in his comment what he thought the roughing the passer was. But it's funny you mentioned the integrity and having that accountability. That's all great. But if you don't make adjustments and you end up sounding like Dan Campbell at the press conference after every loss saying 100%'s on me, but you don't make adjustments, if the NFL refs do the same thing, we're still standing in the same spot, right? So I agree with you guys.
That goes back to what Ray said, though.
There's
Bring
Craig
him in there and have him explain it. And maybe you gotta fire some people. And maybe you gotta bring in some new people. That's the way the American world goes.
If you look at it too, yeah, they put it out. Okay, if you make a mistake, they put it out, and the NFL referee guys come out. Who's in charge of the referee come out? Yeah, the referees made this call. That's why this thing. We explained to it on a talking point. But if you don't show them through the action, because everybody can mistake what your talking points are, they can interpret it a different way. You have to get these referees together. You have to go over, and this is what we're talking about. This right here, and then show them examples of what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's gonna be a talking point for sure. Especially the comments were made this morning. If that were to happen in a playoff game, the social media would have exploded because now you're putting guys' livelihoods on the line. Where in that case, the Falcons are trying to establish their new. Yes, it goes in the L column, but if referees continue to make the deciding calls in games, that essentially will come into a guy's livelihood, and guys can get fired because they don't win enough games. But if the calls are made by referees to influence the game one way or another, you're messing with guys' livelihoods at that point. So that's something the NFL is going to have to address. At this point, we've got one last joinee of the morning. Mike Hughes, this is a jam-packed show this morning on ASAP in the Morning here on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. Mike Hughes, good morning, sir. How are you doing? How was your weekend?
Good morning, sir. It was eventful, man. You know, my head hurts right now, and that's why I'm sitting in the dark eating a burger. It's 9 a.m, but it's all right. We're doing all right.
All right. Well, we're kind of let's move on a little bit to talk. Let's talk some Major League Baseball, the wild card round. Yes, I know Frankie's excited for this. The wild card round is now complete, and we're getting into the NLDS. We're going to do some breakdowns of the different series tomorrow because it does kick off tomorrow. But you've got the Guardians sweeping the Rays in the best of three. Mm-hmm. The Seattle Mariners sweeping the Blue Jays. Phillies take down the Cardinals. And, of course, last night, the only game 3 of the wild card series, the Padres absolutely just demoralized the New York Mets last night. So now the postseason is continuing to take shape. Of these series, Frankie, I know you got something to say. What was the biggest takeaway that you had from the wild card round?
Honestly, the biggest takeaway for me was the St. Louis Cardinals getting swept by the Philadelphia Phillies. I honestly thought that the St. Louis Cardinals had a good shot at beating them in the playoffs this year. I thought they were honestly going to win in 3 games. They definitely had a chance to win game 1, but blew that lead and just let Philly walk away with that one. And then they just looked like they didn't show up on Saturday and just basically gave up and said, listen, congratulations, Albert Pujols. We're going to miss you. You had a great career. You're Mr. 700 now, but you're not going to be Mr. World Series. It was really sad. The other game that blew my mind was the Seattle Mariners and Toronto Blue Jays game. Game two was really interesting, where Toronto had that 8-1 lead, and then all of a sudden Seattle came back at the very end of the top of the eighth inning and ended up scoring about 6 or 7 runs to tie it up, and then go in the top of the ninth to take a 10-9 lead. So that was really interesting to me. I feel like, and I said this to Jay many times, he's a Houston Astros fan. He's really excited to play the Mariners. But if I was him, I wouldn't be too excited, because of what they did to Toronto. They're looking good, and they looking like this year's playoffs. They want to be here. So don't sleep on Seattle, Jay.
That's cute. Hey, hold on. I'm gonna go down because he didn't call me out. If you don't mind.
Absolutely.
And I'll keep it short. Frankie, that little soliloquy was very cute. It was very cute. I'm imagining you probably stayed up all night writing that.
He was thinking about it the whole
I
time.
fell asleep early.
No, look, hey, for me, the biggest surprise in all this, Seattle, I knew they were going to be there because I know how well they have played with Castillo, things like that. And Toronto has shown some weaknesses in their bullpen. Tampa Bay kind of surprised me a little bit, but the fact that I've seen how well the Guardians played, I know how Houston is faced with the Guardians. So I'm not really even too surprised with the Guardians being there. The Phillies, the Phillies, hey, you can't look past them. You can't look past Wheeler and company, nor can you look past, Bryce Harper and company. But the biggest one for me was the New York, San Diego. And I'm going to say this. How you got the best 1-2 punch in baseball, rotation, and your number one guy comes out game one, goes 4.2 innings, and gets booed off the mound. I mean, come on. Scherzer does his job. We're not talking San Diego. We're talking New York Mets, LA Dodgers. So that really was the biggest thing for me. Is I don't know how Scherzer doesn't come out and play like the Scherzer we saw in Washington Nationals. We got some kind of alternate version of Scherzer. Now, I understand he came off an injury rehab, but still, so did Jake DeGrom. And as we can all see, Jake DeGrom hasn't fallen off the shelf. So Scherzer really does got to shoulder a lot of the blame for New York not advancing to the NLDS against LA. As for the Houston and Seattle series, I'm just going to say it, Frankie. The bullpen is so deep, we don't need nobody else. Our starting rotation is so deep, we had to take 2 guys off and put them into the bullpen. That's how deep we are. Every positional need is deep, every one of them. And then you got Altuve and company. So we got Dusty Baker, who knows how to play. So I'm not worried about Seattle because we've owned Seattle. If we go back and look at the series in which Houston has played against Seattle, we've owned Seattle. We just swept Seattle not long ago. Castillo, yeah, he's a good pitcher, but he ain't better than Verlander. And I'm pretty sure that's going to be your game one matchup. Then you got McCullers coming in after that. Who's going to match up with that? Or even Framber Valdez, who has a little bit under 2 ERA. So, no, I don't see the need to ever be concerned with Seattle. What you should be concerned with, Frankie, is your lackluster play after the All-Star break. And I guess you maybe found a little bit of the fountain of youth, but it wasn't much. So you might want to worry about Cleveland. Because until you can get past Cleveland, you'll never see the light of day in the Houston Astros and the ALCS.
I also think, Frankie, you should really just be careful about what kind of trash cans are allowed inside of the stadium because
trash cans, whatever. See, there you go. That's my cue.
What happened, bro? What happened,
that
bro?
Was Mike, that's 2017. The majority of that team, plus the GM, plus the coach, isn't even there. So what are you talking about, Mike Hughes? Just stay there with your little Chicago Cubs, your little Chicago White Sox, your little Chicago Bears, and stay at the little table. That's where all the loser teams are.
Listen, all I'm gonna say is if
you come to the party and talk about trash cans and you can't even get out.
Out of everyone should know that regular season and postseason are 2 different things. Yes, you can own them in the regular season, but they can have the momentum to come out in the postseason and beat you guys. And that's where your lackluster fanboy in the heart.
Oh, now I'm a fanboy. I'm a fanboy because in the postseason just
I might have to start muting people.
I want to ask anybody in this panel: have you heard me say anything yet about the Yankees and Cleveland? I know what Cleveland's gonna bring. I'm not saying we're going to sweep them. Maybe they might win one game or so, but I'm not saying we're going to sweep them. I don't sleep on teams in the playoffs because it's different from the regular season. And you
Frankie,
are
just
clearly
keep my
sleeping
receipt,
on the
Frankie.
Seattle Mariners, who just had a 8-1 differential and came back to win it 10-9. And you're over there, well, we got Justin Verlander. Oh, they got Castillo. Oh, that's cute. You're sleeping on them.
I love how you change your voice to mask your factual-based opinion.
Beats Houston, I swear to God, you're not going to hear the end of it. Because if you do not make the ALCS, Jay, I swear to God, you better not be on a podcast until next season baseball.
And again, I'll be on a podcast, right? Because that ain't going to happen. And then you can keep that receipt.
All right, let's shift gears a little bit. Mike.
Hi, Craig.
Hi, Mike.
How are you?
How are you, buddy?
I'm okay.
You're all right this morning. But hey, what was the most surprising series of the wild card based on what you saw? I know we're planning on doing some live reaction shows this postseason. That's gonna be a lot of fun. Check that out here on ASAP Network. That'll be a lot of fun. But Mike, so in the wild card series, which of those stood out to you the most?
I think Toronto didn't really surprise me as much. I had Toronto going to the World Series. I felt like they had that kind of roster on paper where they could just have that momentum. They had a bunch of young guys. They had that feel-good story. And it turned out to be that Seattle's that feel-good story. You know, some guys, you want to be that. You want them to be the next future of the league. You want guys like Vladdy and Bo and everybody else to really just be able to take over the game. But in all seriousness, Julio Rodriguez and everybody else over there in Seattle is really doing their thing. And Castillo is really the icing on the cake to really make a playoff push. And they're really showing out. They're really showing out. So shout out to Savannah Dean and everybody else over there that's really rocking with Seattle. They're a diehard fan group. And I know I was 1 year old the last time they were in the playoffs other than this year. So, I mean, it's been a minute. So, I mean, I'm happy for them. It wasn't a shock to me. Even as a Cubs fan, like I got to give them their flowers. The St. Louis Cardinals, that was the biggest shocker to me, especially with Jack Flaherty being back. Flaherty to me was the X factor to where I was like, if he can be who he was, then they're going to go to the World Series. And it's not even a question. Like you look at their lineup all year. Paul Goldschmidt averaged .317 batting average, .981 OPS. Nolan Arenado, 293. You know what he can do defensively. Brendan Donovan, 281. Pujols, Yachty, all these other guys. They had a great squad, and that's just from offensively. Like you look at the pitching rotation. They had Mikolas, they had Montgomery, who was lights out. Frankie, I'm sorry, but I had to point that out. But they had Quintana, they had Wainwright, they got Flaherty back. They had a bunch of dogs in the starting rotation, and they just shit the bed. And honestly, that's one of the conversations about the Phillies we've had all year is which Phillies team are you going to get? And I think they just hit all in the right time. And that's the same conversation going into the next round is, are they all going to be hitting at the right time? And, that's really what can make them go from bouncing the wild card to potentially going to the NLCS. And I think that's one of the biggest things right now. A lot of Philly fans are questioning is, can this team do it again consistently? Because now it's a 5-game series. You know what I mean? So 3 games, it is what it is. You can get lucky twice. And it's one of those things where, you have the bullpen and you have the starting rotation to kind of back that up. Higher up, not really 3 through 5, but 1 through 2, they're really solid. But yeah, I was just shocked that St. Louis didn't even grab a game. And shout out to Juan Soto, man. Heard a lot of people talking shit the entire season about Juan Soto, and this kid knocks in 2 RBIs to really give him the dagger. And Musgrove was cheating, apparently, even though there was nothing to base that off of. You were just salty because the kid was absolutely dealing. So shout out to Joe. Shout out to Joey M for actually playing the game well, and the Mets were just mad about it. Die mad, Mets fans. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, Ray, you and I were talking about that Musgrove at the beginning of the show here, pre-show. We were talking about that series, and I guess is that a series that stood out to you as well, or did one of the other series really jump out to you in the wild card?
Well, the Philly and the Cardinals, the one was the most interesting that I was looking at because you had both teams coming in hot. You had the Phillies coming in soon after they fired Joe Girardi, the Phillies started turning it on a little bit. And I think that gave them a shot in the arms. They were playing great baseball. And now you got them moving against the Braves, which both teams are under 500, 3 games under 500 in day games, which is a 107 start tomorrow. So that's going to be interesting to see how the Braves react on the early start and the Phillies. But, going back to the Mets, I had this Met fan trolling Atlanta Braves group. And he came out and was complaining godly about pine tar, about the San Diego Padres pitcher cheating. That's why we had all this stuff. I told him I'll turn the TV off after I seen this, because after every play he had the home plate official go up there and check. Didn't have it. Then he had every entire infield umpires go in and check. Still didn't do it. But that Philly series and the Cardinal series was the one I was really intrigued about, and now we got to go play against the Phillies. The Phillies had Braves numbers most of the year, so it's going to be a good series between the Braves and the Phillies.
Are you excited, Ray, to face the Phillies? Because we know that that's a division rival matchup for you guys, and you guys are comfortable with facing them a lot. Do you guys feel like you're more comfortable right now to get this win over them?
I'm going to tell you like what Brian Snooker said. You cannot be comfortable playing your division because they know who you got. They know your strategies, and the Phillies are playing hot right now. That's the one team I was worried about. Them, the St. Louis Cardinals and the Phillies were playing hot baseball, and that's where the Braves came in limping a little bit in that last series, taking 2 out of the 3 against the Nationals, but sweeping the Mets. But the Braves has been up and down all season long. And right now, which Brave team is going to show up? That's going to be the question.
Take notes, Jay. Take notes. Never feel comfortable when you face up against your division.
Hey, Frankie. I know you're trying to call me. It's all good. If I was going up against the Guardians, I probably would be a little bit more concerned because I know how well the Guardians play the Astros.
Oh yeah,
I'm not worried about Seattle. I'm sorry, I'm just not. I'm not worried about Seattle. And if they kill us, then you can ridicule me from here to Sunday. But I'm not worried about Seattle, bro. I'm just not.
Oh my Lord! Everyone here.
Hey, the Lord hears you, Frankie.
Everyone here.
The Lord does hear you. I want you to understand. When you pray to the Lord, He does hear you.
Remember this moment, everyone. Because if the Seattle
I don't think you have to tell them that. These people aren't dumb. Of course they're going to remember it.
When the Astros lose to the Seattle Mariners, everyone is coming after Jay McLovin.
It's okay. Listen, I was born in 1979. I once gave an 8mm socket to my dad when he wanted half-inch. Do you know how hard it was back then? You the smoking kid.
No, because I was busy swimming in the sack in 1979.
I was also swimming in the sack.
Yeah, I was 7 years old.
All right.
I was 7 years old back in 1979.
Me and Frankie were holding hands.
I saw Elvis in concert in 1977 before he died.
Hey, my mom did too, Ray. Hey, that was a good concert. I love Elvis. He's a good dude.
Yeah, I remember watching that concert on VHS.
I hate you, bro.
Mike ain't got no fight in this because he wasn't even thought of.
Man.
I wasn't born yet either, so
I was.
Mike Hughes said he watched it on MP3. Man, you know Mike Hughes is young. He got that young face.
Oh, God.
MP3.
I am Elvis, bro. I'm reincarnated, folks.
Yeah, there we go.
Hey, Mike Hughes does have a beautiful face, though. I gotta give that man some props.
Dude, I remember watching Michael Jordan play in high school, college, and NBA.
Yeah,
I just remember him playing in the NBA.
I don't even remember him playing in the NBA.
So back to baseball here. in the MLB postseason, I think one of the biggest factors in all of the series of the wild card round is that each team that ended up winning had already won all the season meetings between the two. So, for instance, the Mariners against Toronto Blue Jays, the Mariners were 5-2 against the Blue Jays during the season. The Guardians had the better of the Rays, the Phillies had the better of the Cardinals, and the Padres had the better of the Mets. So, if you use that formula looking forward, that bodes well for some teams in this divisional matchups and doesn't bode well for others. But I think one of the biggest surprises to me in that entire round, one was how I really wish we could have seen Tampa and Cleveland play other teams, because both teams, based on pitching and defense, were snoozer of games.
Horrible.
But it did provide Seattle versus Toronto, which provided some great games. I would have liked to have seen them play later in the playoffs, but hey, we don't always get what we want. The Mets have to be the biggest shock to me. You win 101 games, you lose the tiebreaker to the Braves for the division, for the NL East, and then the Padres come in. The Padres have your number, and it was touched on earlier. You have, I think Jay said it, the biggest 1-2 punch in major leagues. But not only that, you go out and spend all that money. Now the question for the Mets is, where do you go from here? Because you went out, spent a ton of money to get all these guys. You win 100 games and you fall flat in the wild card round. So I think that's probably the biggest surprise. Is it just the Mets being the Mets, or were the Padres really just that much better? I think the Padres got hot at the right time.
I think.
Can I say something real quickly? Breaking news. Panthers coach Matt Rule has been fired.
Yeah, 2 years too late.
Yeah. I was about to say 2 years too late on that.
Sorry.
Jeez.
But sorry, Frankie, back to important things. The sky is also blue and water is wet. But Craig, I think, in all seriousness, I was talking to my guy, Michael Powers, about it. And I was really like rooting for him because I know he's a diehard Mets fan. He does his thing. But I think the writing for me was on the walls when Scherzer got banged up. And the biggest part of that was because you really didn't do anything in free agency other than bring in a couple big guys. Like, you brought in a couple of big guys, but when you bring in those guys with so much money, the rest of your roster is kind of shortened. And I think that's one of the biggest aspects of it. Now, the key factor for me was the Juan Soto debacle, the Wilson Contreras situation during the trade deadline. You had so many guys that you could have potentially brought in to prevent them from going to the Padres, to staying with the Cubs, or going to all these other places, and you didn't. Like, you literally looked at Francisco Alvarez, and I think he's a dog. He's going to be one of the best young catchers in the game. But if you want to go all in right now, you trade for an all-star like Wilson Contreras. Now, maybe you don't trade Alvarez, but you trade something for him. Right now, they had so many issues offensively during the playoffs. It was just hard to look at them and be like, you didn't do anything to change that. You didn't bring anybody in with experience. You have an unexperienced group outside of Lindor, and the only thing he knows is how to choke a 3-1 lead, but that's okay. But it is what it is. It is what it is. And I think, the writing was on the wall during the trade deadline that they didn't really want to compete like that. They could have made moves. There was a bunch of guys available. You could have got a Frankie Montas. You could have got a Jordan Montgomery. Probably not Jordan because he's from New York, but you could have got a bunch of guys who were there, a plethora of guys who are going to be rentals too. That's the biggest thing. The rental part of it is everything, because you don't even have to go into it next season with them on the books. And they didn't. And that's exactly why you just got beat by Juan Soto, because you didn't trade for Juan Soto.
But then again, you got to think about the Mets. The Mets were battling with the Braves all season long in the second half, trying to maintain the division. That could weigh on them too, and them competing so far into the late of the season, all the way up to almost the last game of the season, and the last series for the Mets to, for the Braves to clinch. I seen a thing. Mets led the division for 175 days. The Braves only led the division for 8 days and clinched.
I know you were waiting to say that, Ray. I know you were waiting to say that.
He had that loaded, ready to go.
No, I memorized that. I got a photographic memory, so I don't have to have that up there.
Man, I wish I had a photographic memory. Damn.
But if you look at it too, the pressure of winning the division, and the second year, this is the second year the Mets has collapsed in the second half of the season to lose their division to the Atlanta Braves. That weighs a toll on the team too.
100%. 100%.
Who cares? Who cares? It's the Mets. Cry about it.
Hey, and Frankie and I actually made a joke about it, because a bunch of Mets fans were talking during one of our shows, and they said, we don't care about the division, we care about the World Series. And now me and Frankie were like, all right, cool. So if they don't go to the World Series, then we're just going to talk a bunch of shit. And I've been going crazy ever since. I've been like, so what happened, bro? And then they all blocked me, bro. They all blocked me.
That is kind of funny. Shit. Damn.
That's funny. That's just very what's the word I'm looking for? Is that karma? I think that's karma.
100%.
All right. So some news came out yesterday, staying in baseball, before we move on. And it has to do with Frankie, your New York Yankees, and Aroldis Chapman. So he's left off the ALDS roster. He was fined by the team after missing a workout. Basically went down to Miami, missed I guess a live BP session. And Brian Cashman and company, they did their best to be professional, but they didn't pull any punches when it came to the impending free agent. So, Frankie, from your perspective and the New York Yankees, not necessarily looking forward too far, but how is this going to affect, what do you make of the situation? How's this going to affect the Yankees in their bullpen further into the playoffs?
Yo, I'm gonna say this as nicely as possible. All right, I'm gonna excuse my language, right? Please don't call me into the office after the show. But fuck Aroldis Chapman, okay?
Yeah.
Straight up, I'm gonna just be honest with you. I said it before the trade deadline. The Yankees should have found a way to trade him away because he was not looking like the Aroldis Chapman from before. He's not been the same. He's doing this because he knows he was not gonna make the ALDS roster. He knows that for a fact. And now he wants to be petty and say, oh, well, if I'm not going to be on the team, why am I here? Let me go ahead and go home to Miami. That just shows that you're not a team player. You're not no type of leadership. You're not a true closer. You're mad because Clay Holmes played better than you in the start of the season and took your job. Boo freaking who? Fight that job back. Get your arm back. Do what you used to do. You don't want to do that. You want to go ahead at the middle of the season and get a tattoo on your leg and end up getting infected. That's the stupidest thing anyone can ever do in the middle of a season, especially at a time in August when we were having the really bad bump of our season. You went and got a leg tattoo. For one, what type of man gets a leg tattoo? All right. And two, how does it get infected? You went to the hood and got it done? Like, come on, bro. It upsetted me. It pissed me off. I'm done with Aroldis Chapman. I'm riding on the Clay Holmes chain. We got other people that can actually close it out. You know, Lucas Lecky can close it out. Albert Bray who could close it out. Ron Marinaccio he's hurt right now. You got Clark Schmidt who can actually close it out. Hell, you got my man from former Chicago Cub, my man Scott Efros, who can close it out. We don't need
that guy.
We don't need Aroldis Chapman. All right, the hell with Aroldis Chapman. It's time to move on from him. Get something from him next year. If not, the hell with him. Let him move.
I think you handled that very well, Frankie.
I handled it very cleanly too.
I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
That's great.
There was only one fuck. It wasn't bad. It was pretty. It was pretty there. It was pretty there. And the tattoo part, well, honestly, being from Chicago, it was pretty valid. It was pretty valid. The only time it gets infected is if you go to the hood or you get it done in a laundromat, and that's really the only times you'll really see a tattoo get infected. Or if you're just gross and you don't shower, but that's a whole different conversation.
Or you go to a tattoo parlor that doesn't sterilize their needles.
Yeah, disgusting. Awful.
Oh, that's a thing?
I mean, it's illegal. It's mad illegal, but it's a thing.
Yeah.
That it is.
Hey, I hope they check out those needles. That'd be terrible if they didn't. But yeah, man.
Everybody gonna get the Magic Johnson, Craig. But anyways.
Hey, listen, you laugh, but when I was a security guard at a prison, and I had to take the guy to the segregation hole tank, and we had to go through his stuff, I got poked by a damn needle. Went to the man. Hey, that was the worst 6 weeks of my life.
I believe Gesundheit.
Hey, for those of you who don't know, it takes about 6 weeks to find out whether you got AIDS or not.
Can we move on?
The big thing for the Yankees here is, and Frankie, you kind of mentioned it, is that Aroldis Chapman he's not the same guy that he was previously. Yeah, he's 34 years old. He's had a 4.46 ERA this year, and he's got a 1.54 strikeout to walk ratio. He's only had 8 saves, I think, since May, was it? Not not doing very well, but the fact that you do this and you're hurt, okay, that you lost your job and you're not trying to fight for it. Like, all right, well, I'm not going to be on this team. I'm just going to go to Miami. That to me tells me that they are ready to move on. They don't need him. And this tells, I think, the rest of the league of Aroldis Chapman's true character.
Right.
So I honestly think a team will probably take a chance on him when he becomes a free agent, but I don't think the suitors are going to be lining up like they used to. Because when you act in this manner and you're not, and especially like, okay, you lost your job. What are you gonna do? He just took his ball and went home. Right. That doesn't bode well for any future opportunities, much less trying to get on a championship team.
Craig, can I ask a question though? It's a legitimate question too. So he was left off the roster, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So, but he can go to the game, right?
He could still be in the clubhouse, I believe, just not in the dugout.
So I'm gonna respectfully.
He could be in the bullpen. I'm sorry.
He can't. Frankie, can he be in the bullpen?
He could be in the bullpen, but he can't. He's not going to be throwing. He's not going to be getting up and doing nothing. He's just going to be sitting down.
Okay, yeah. So that's a whole different conversation. Because Craig, I'm gonna say respectfully, bro. If my team is on the field and I have to stay inside in the clubhouse by myself, just on my phone, I'm going back to Miami. But if I could be in the bullpen, I'll be in the bullpen. You see where I'm coming from, Frankie? I think I'm completely fine if he can be in the bullpen in the dugout. That's completely cool. But if he was in the clubhouse, oh, bro, I'm going home too. Fuck is this? Why am I sitting with the janitor who's mopping the floor for the party that's gonna go on in 3 hours when I'm all by myself? But anyways, what my point was, I think it's gonna be like a Trevor Bauer situation where you see him go to somewhere like Cincinnati, have a 1 year where you can just ball out and try to get back to what you were. And then probably not Cincinnati because of everything that happened with him in Cincinnati. But as an example, a rebuilding team that, you really don't have any pressure. There really isn't anything going on over there. And it's really just something where he can get his arm back going. And then going into 2024, then you're going to see Aroldis Chapman make that decision. But he's also going to be older. So I don't really know, like you said, if there's going to be a lot of contenders who are really looking at guys like that.
And that's the thing. At 34 years of age as a pitcher, I mean, it's not like your arm's getting younger. So how much better can he get at 34? He might be able to work on his control, maybe work on his mechanics. But, I mean, at 34 years of age, if anybody does, it's going to be an event minimum. He's going to be on a short leash. And I don't know that, with all that pressure that he's going to be able to just turn things around, especially if he hasn't played baseball with a team in a hot minute until he gets picked up.
And that's the thing, Jay. It's his mechanic and the way he throws his ball, like the pitches, right? It's out of the zone. He's not like what me and Craig said. It's not the same as it's been. He throws the 98s, 99 fastball to 100s or whatever, but it's not in the strike zone. He's way too high up. He's way too inside. It's just out of control, and that's exactly why the Yankees are just gonna sit him out for the ALDS. Doesn't mean you can't work your way back into the roster and play for the ALCS.
Right.
The most important one is the ALCS to go to the World Series. You can work your way, but after what you just did, not showing up for your bullpen session, and just going right back home to Miami, clearly shows us that you don't want to be part of this team. You're really butthurt because you're not on it. Sorry, nobody else is throwing freaking like 5 ERA like you are, and at closing moments where those are must-need wins. So if you want to go ahead and be a big baby about it and go to Miami, then stay in Miami, bro. Don't try and work your way back when we win the division series and end up going to the championship series, because that's not going to happen. Aaron Boone is going to – if I'm Aaron Boone, I will put my foot down and say, don't come back. Don't come back.
Right. Yeah. And I think the difference is, too, is like – and Craig talked about it the one day, is you're not throwing 105 anymore, bro. Like 98, 99 is the standard, and you're not anything special. So if you can't throw strikes, you're literally useless. Yeah, I'm sorry. Like 105, cool. Get away with it. You're Nolan Ryan 2.0. That's completely fine. You do what you got to do. You can pretend whoever you want to be. That's fine. But now it's just like, dude, I don't know what you want me to say. Like you have no command. You're throwing average pitches. You have no slider anymore because Joe Madden and the Chicago Cubs completely obliterated your arm, and I don't feel bad about it. But it's it is what it is. And I think if that's how you want, I think when things start to go wrong and guys start to digress, I think that's when character kind of shows. I think Kobe Bryant is kind of the idol figure for me for that. Is even when your game is kind of starting to slip, you can do things to really keep yourself in there, whether you outsmart somebody, outwork somebody, whatever it may be. And Aroldis Chapman is he relies on athleticism. Like, let's keep it a stack, and that's what he's always done, is relying on athleticism. He doesn't.
That's what I said. I think he'd have to reinvent himself, and I don't know, like from what we've seen, I don't know if his character is good enough that would allow him to say, you know what, I got to reinvent myself if I want to stay in the game. Right. And I don't think he's at that level. So that for those reasons, plus his age, it's very hard for him.
And I don't think he has enough pitches to really reinvent himself. If you take away the fastball, like it's what his slider and his curve. That's it.
He's got a slider, a curve, and a sinker.
The sinker is a fucking fastball. Let's keep it a stack.
No lie, Mike. His sinkers are fastballs. And
it's literally just a fastball in the dirt. Like it doesn't even sink.
Seriously.
But when you get up in age and you throw a certain amount of speed, and then your speed is coming down, pitchers have a hard time commanding their new change of their arm strength. And that's what his problem is, and his same thing is immaturity. At age 34, you got to be mature enough to say, hey, okay, I'm off this roster. Like you said, you got to go reinvent myself a little bit. Hire a person to teach you to throw a changeup. Hire somebody to teach you how to throw some other pitches to add to your repertoire. He did not do that throughout his career. And that's the problem you get to now, is he doesn't have any other off-speed pitches that he can actually throw and he can command the strike zone. And I applaud the Yankees for taking him off the roster, because right now he's not helping the team.
He's not. And I said this since like midway through the season. If I was Aroldis Chapman, I would honestly contact Mariano Rivera, and I would get with him and be like, listen, what did you do what can you teach me or show me to reinvent myself and be the person that I used to be? Like, you got to get with one of those former leaderships that were in the bullpen, that knows what they're doing, who've been in that situation before. I mean, Mariano Rivera never been in the situation where he's been in before, but he can show him the ropes on how to reinvent his pitching status and changing his ways. Aroldis Chapman just pissed me off. I'm done with him. I've been done with him since the leg tattoo. Like I said, what type of man gets a leg tattoo? It's just upsetting.
Especially when you ain't wearing shorts.
Yeah, I ain't
exactly. Right? Exactly. Nobody gonna see your leg.
Listen,
at least not the third.
I'm from the city that 10 months out of the year there's snow, so I don't see a point in it.
Yeah,
personally,
you don't have much opportunity to wear shorts in the Great Lakes area. So
I understand if he plays football because the pants legs are a little shorter and you can actually see. But playing baseball and the pants legs are longer and you can't see.
Frankie, do you know what the tattoo was of, sir?
I don't know what the tattoo was. I don't know what part in his leg it was. I'm pretty sure I put money on it. It was on his calf.
Was it a mermaid?
I don't know what it was, honestly.
Oh,
it could be a tattoo of his next team for all I care.
Right. But that was one of the points I may have misspoke when I was kind of addressing it, Mike, is I meant that he could be around the team, but that's part of, and Frankie, all of you guys have kind of made one of the biggest points I think out of this story collectively, is that he was still they were trying to assess.
Oh my God.
Oh, by the way, the portrait was his sister on his left calf.
I knew it was a calf. I knew
it. Hold up. Also, he has no regrets on his upper thigh, on his right leg.
What? So he's got no regret tattoo and a calf tattoo.
Hold up. The no regret is the infected one on his hamstring area above his knee. That's the infected tattoo.
So dumb.
No regrets.
Yeah, no regrets.
No regrets. Okay. Yeah.
We're gonna have no regrets neither. Sending your ass off to a shitty team.
Come back home, baby. We got you.
You don't want him, Mike. Mike, you don't want him.
I'll take him.
No, you don't.
All right. Hey, I know, Frankie, you had mentioned this a few minutes ago, but the Panthers, breaking news, fired head coach Matt Rule.
God bless.
After a 1-4 start. 11-27 in his career as the head coach for the Carolina Panthers. Your guys' reaction to this breaking news?
Let's fucking get it. Can I go, Craig? Craig, can I go?
No,
Mike,
let me
please
go. Let me
open
go.
the
Let me
floor.
go quickly. Let me go
Go,
quickly.
go, Frankie. Go, Frankie. Go, Frankie.
Yeah, all I'm gonna say is it was a long overdue. I'm finally glad he's gone. Hopefully something could change with the Panthers organization because they actually got good players. It just sucks for the Panthers because now they owe this man north of $40 million. I'm just seeing right now. And Panthers defensive pass game coordinator and secondary coach Steve Wilkes is now taking over as interim head coach. Go ahead, Mike. Say what you got to say.
Oh, man, I just want to say shout out to all the Carolinans, or however you say it, Ray. Sorry. But, all them guys over there, man, they deserve it, bro. They deserve it. Shout out to the Carolina Panthers organization for having a fucking sack. I was looking at the Chicago Bears the last 3 years. Like, why is Matt Nagy here? Why are we here? Andy Dalton, Nick Foles, Mitchell Trubisky, Chase Daniel. I'm like, why the fuck? How many guys do you need? And after 5 games, Carolina was like, nah, this ain't it, bruh. It's you. You're the problem. Christian McCaffrey, for the first time ever, is walking straight because this man is healthy. I haven't seen that man walk in a straight line since 2017. He's made of glass, but he's having a great season. But you're wasting it. You're wasting the opportunity. You're squandering the opportunity. They gave you Gilmore. They gave you every single defensive player you would need, and you can't do anything with it. You had Darnold. You had Baker. You had Cam. You had Geno. You had everybody named Mama, to be honest. And you shit the bed. And that's what it was. And I think, you're the reason Luke Kuechly retired early, and maybe that was his fault. Maybe it wasn't. But I blame him. And I think it's, there's just a lot of things that go into it. And I think I'm just happy it happened. Like, you don't have to deal with that the rest of the year. That is done. The era is over. And honestly, I feel like sometimes when you get a new head coach, depending on the situation, we talked about it earlier, like Philly with Joe Girardi. I mean, sometimes it's better. Sometimes it's a different atmosphere. Sometimes it's a different culture. It's a different vibe. It could change everything. So I think it's definitely interesting to see where they're going to be going forward. At the end of the day, you still have Sam and Baker, so I wouldn't put too much of a ceiling on that. It's not like having Bryce and fucking Kyle Schwarber, but it's something. It's something right now. I think Carolina fans should have their heads up high today. I don't think it's a negative.
To me, I think
not every college coach can find success in the NFL. I think Nick Saban was a good case of that, and he went back to college, and of course he's Nick Saban. Matt Rule going over there and not being successful, it is what it is. Pete Carroll wasn't successful his first time out with New England either until they found some success over there in Seattle. So sometimes it translates and sometimes it doesn't. I think Matt Rule is just better at the college level than right now what he is at the NFL.
Yeah, Jay, you and I, you literally same wavelength. That's where I was thinking as well. Is you've got it just goes to show you how difficult it is to make the transition from the college game to the pro game. You can even throw Chip Kelly in that conversation too, when he tried to make the jump to the NFL. But that transition is really difficult, and the Panthers just did not look good under Matt Rule, whatsoever. So I think it's going to be interesting to see where they go next. And then Ray, I know
What
just did that?
I don't know.
Go ahead, Ray.
Well, Matt Rule is a college coach, point blank. I knew that from when he hired him, when the NFL hired him. I knew that. And Urban Myers needed to be shot. I mean, that dude went to Cincinnati. That dude needs to be shot.
That's you can't say that on TV.
No, I think he can as long as he doesn't say that I'm going to shoot him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's a loose interpretation.
But anyway.
Damn it, we're getting canceled.
Jay,
we're getting canceled.
But anyway, if you look at it this way, Nebraska's probably jumping up at the bed because Nebraska wants Matt Rule anyway to go and fill that vacant coaching job that Scott Frost lost. So I mean, he's better on the college level. I think he got over his head when he came to the Carolina Panthers in the NFL. I think NFL is a little bit bigger beast for some of these college coaches, except for Jimmy Johnson, who had him and Switzer had more success coming out of the college ranks than any other college coaches at the time. But now that's over. I'm tired of NFL teams going after their college coaches, think they're going to be the next ones to step up and be a great coach. They need to keep the college. They need to keep the NFL people in the NFL and the college coaches at the college level, point blank. And if I was Lincoln Riley, I wouldn't leave USC for an NFL job. That's just point blank.
I think there's levels to it too. Like, I don't think just because you're a college head coach that you should automatically be an NFL head coach. I think you should kind of be an offensive coordinator, and that's to the level and the degree of, the respect that they feel like they're being given. And a lot of guys don't want to go back down to an offensive coordinator. But you got to understand, like, you just can't walk into an organization. I can't be like, yo, I'm on 6 shows at ASAP and I want to go work at ESPN, but I want to be the next Stephen A. Smith. Like, I would never want to be that. But it's something, you got to understand. You got to put that work in. And a lot of these college coaches just show up and think that it's going to be the same transition. And you never were an offensive coordinator in the NFL. You weren't a quarterbacks coach in the NFL. So guys like Brian Dable, guys like, we can do the list on and on of great OCs, Mike McDaniels and others that are really solid guys who put in that work. They definitely have a level up, I guess you could say, on guys who are head coaches in the college level. Matt Eberflus is next. Damian, go home.
Can I go back to what Ray said? Ray, do you think it was planned for Nebraska to just have a head coaching banking job, and then Matt Rule we knew Matt Rule was going to be terrible, but for him to work his way to get fired within 5 weeks of the NFL, now we think that, or you thinking he's probably going to end up going back to Nebraska? Was this planned?
It could have. I don't think Matt Rule's part, it was planned for him. I think he thought he can succeed in the NFL. I think that's what his biggest picture was when he was at Temple in Texas, that he could try to make that next step up into the NFL. That failed. I think Nebraska's job came open because Scott Frost got over his head, leaving UCF, University of Central Florida, because he had such success at University of Central Florida, which he thought he could take that success and go to the Big Ten. Some of these college coaches, when they go from smaller schools to bigger school, think they can make that big jump. They can't. And I think Nebraska just fired him because they're getting tired of Scott Frost's situation with not competing. Look what Scott Frost did to Aaron Martinez. Aaron Martinez now is at K-State. Look what he has done with K-State. He has become an all-around better quarterback, but Scott Frost was holding them back, and the pressure at Nebraska was getting to Scott Frost. I think when they fired him, I don't believe Nebraska thought Matt Rule was going to get fired this quick. But they haven't expressed interest on Mike Rule. I think Mike Rule would have probably left Carolina at the end of the season to take the Nebraska job because he knew that Carolina was going to fail. But Carolina just helped him out and went on ahead and fired him, suck up his salary, and then move on to another coach. And Nebraska was going to pick him up. And Nebraska could offer him a little bit smaller pricing job because now the NFL is still paying him the big salary that he got for the Carolina Panthers.
Well, you had kind of mentioned that Scott Frost. Now, there's a lot of other things there. Apparently, it was a very toxic environment that he was creating, and that really played big into it. But Matt Rule had brought up Baylor and Temple as college programs, and those are definitely different levels than you're talking about the NFL. But they made a big investment in them. It was a $62 million 7-year deal that now he's still going to be getting paid for. Not really sure if there was any buyouts or anything or what the guarantees were on that contract, but now looking ahead for the Panthers, you can essentially just play out this season. Now is going to be an audition for a lot of these guys and for the interim head coach. It's gonna be an audition to see can you move forward. But I think Mike hits it right on the head where guys that have shown that success as a coordinator at different levels, those are the guys that the NFL ideally would need to look at versus people have dipped into the college pool and very rarely does it ever actually work out unless they have previous NFL experience. So that's going to be a very intriguing decision for the Carolina Panthers to see where they go next.
They ain't going nowhere, bro.
Yeah, Craig.
Yeah, this year they're not going anywhere.
I just see something. I don't know if I said it or whatever, but the Panthers are owing him now that he's fired. They have to owe him up to north of $40 million.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in all honesty, the Carolina Panthers really they needed a fresh start. They need to rebuild because what's the shelf life on McCaffrey at this point? You know what I mean?
So he's about 30 years old, maybe.
Needs a whole new facelift.
Jay, they had about 3 years worth of rebuild mode.
I know, right? Hey, listen, that seems to be the common theme in Carolina.
Been rebuilding pretty much since 2017.
That's true though. Hey,
But
I think they've been rebuilding since Berline. Was that Steve Berline? Was that
Steve Berline? You talking about?
They had their run. They had their
Jake Delhomme.
run.
They had Jake Delhomme.
They had Cam. They had a bunch of dudes. Super Cam. They did their thing for a little bit.
They had guys that made the Super Bowl. Just to clarify something as well, I think a comment was made about Matt Rule connected to Nebraska. He's never been connected to Nebraska. Went to Penn State. A lot of those. So that Scott Frost and Matt Rule kind of different topics there. But that brings a little bit of a domino effect for who's the next NFL head coach that could be fired.
Someone doing their laundry, man.
Someone's doing something in the background.
Hey, I'm just kind of curious on how long Nathaniel Hackett's going to have that job out in Denver.
I think I think Nathaniel Hackett needs to be fired as well, but I think it's one of those things where they'll wait till the end of the season for that, just because Rule's been here a minute, and that's what it is, and that's what it comes down to. So I mean, there's no excuses left. There's nothing to say. I do think, maybe he wasn't given the greatest opportunity at the quarterback position, so I'll give him that. But at the same time, I also look at that man's schemes and I look at his play calling, and I just look at it and I'm like, why? Why are you doing the things you do? You have speedy, lengthy guys and guys like Robbie Anderson, and you just have them run bubble screen routes the entire time. It doesn't make any sense. You literally hand the ball to Christian McCaffrey and just pray to God it's a yard for 90 plus yards. So I mean, it's really just a Madden game for Matt Rule. So I don't think there's really too much that goes into it. But I don't know. I think Rule probably could go to Wisconsin, like Damian said right here. He definitely could do something. I don't see him going to a prestigious school. I don't see him taking a pay cut and being a coordinator anywhere. But I mean, all time will tell. You know what I mean? Even Urban Meyer might get an opportunity someday back in college. I don't think anybody can really make it in the college game if they have that NFL label now.
Okay, bro. Okay, yeah, we hear you. Get your phone out of your pocket.
Sorry, baby.
We lost a little bit of sound from Mike Hughes, but I think college. He'll definitely go back to college. Matt Rule, obviously where he had some success. I would not be surprised if he links up with a successful college coach, maybe the end of this year, just to get himself back into the college game. But I don't know about Wisconsin. That's not a good fit style-wise.
Maybe it's Jimbo Fisher's time to go on ahead and cut bait and slide him over there to Texas A&M.
That's a possibility. And
he did well at Baylor, so I think he'd do well at A&M. And A&M, God knows they need to change.
Yeah, and the Wisconsin job's been linked to Dave Dorison, the North Carolina State head coach. His name has been brought up to the Wisconsin. The current interim coach of Wisconsin, his name has been brought up. A lot of people want him to stay as the head coach. But the interesting name on the Panthers list, the first name that came up was Eric Bieniemy.
Yeah, that's been a name linked to a lot of different teams of the last few years. Kind of a little bit of a surprise potentially that he hasn't been named for an NFL head coach yet, but he's one of those names. Kellen Moore will probably be in that conversation, offensive coordinator for the Cowboys. I know Byron Leftwich has been a name thrown out over the last couple of years in Tampa Bay. There's a lot of really good candidates already currently at the NFL level. So Carolina's got a few different routes that they can go to find their new coach. Matt Rule to LSU, Damian.
No.
Give it about 2 more years. 2 more years, and Brian Kelly will be gone. Then we can have that conversation.
I think Carolina should put their toes in the water and go get Brian Flores out of the Steelers and bring him over. He did a wonderful job rebuilding Miami. What could he do with Carolina?
It's a name that could be thrown out there as well. Previous head coaching experience, obviously didn't end very well in Miami, but there is that possibility. Does he get another shot being an NFL head coach?
But yeah, I mean the defensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles, Jonathan Cannon's been named a name on the list too. DeMarco Ryan's name has been on the list. Raheem Morris is on the list. Leslie Frazier is on the list. Those are the top 5 right now that came out 2 days ago for the Carolina Panthers.
DeMeco Ryans and what he's been able to do with that San Francisco defense again this year has been phenomenal. So I guarantee DeMeco Ryans going to be in the conversation for some of these jobs. Rob Scott joining in on Facebook. Good morning, Rob. Damian says the Panthers should get Jim Caldwell. I don't think Jim Caldwell wants to coach anymore. Otherwise, he would have had a job years ago.
Some health stuff going on too.
Yeah, he's got health stuff going on, so I don't think that's a possibility for him anymore. He's probably just trying to get right, and then, I think he is helping out in a kind of a consulting role, I believe, somewhere. But lots of directions they could go there. All right, Ian
Rappaport just said Sean Payton's name is now like.
Hey, Frankie!
But
take your phone out of the laundry machine, you fucking dick!
Hey,
calm down, Mike.
Machine. All right,
hey, he put $1.25 in the washer, and he got $1.25 for the dryer. He ain't got no more money, so he gotta let it ride.
What the hell are you talking about? I got my own washer and dryer. I do it for free. And Mike, shut your mouth. Imagine having a freaking photo of freaking Caruso on a black body.
It's Caruso on Michael Jordan. Be respectful. Imagine having a little. Hey, you know what? Hey, Craig, I'll end it. I'm gonna end it right here. It's not gonna go any further. You have a little boy with his privates out taking a piss on an organization. You're a pedophile. Anyways,
how's that a pedophile?
Anyways, Craig, do you know that little white boy? That could be my son.
Okay.
Goodness.
That little white boy is me when I was a kid. I'm Frankie the Yankee, and you can't see it. You can't see my private part, and all I gotta say is to the Boston organization is get pissed on. That's all.
Oh, all right.
The thoughts of Mike Hughes and Frankie do not necessarily represent the thoughts and processes of the All Sports All Plays Network.
Rob's got the question, when are they going to fire Baker? I think that's a good conversation to think about moving forward for Carolina. Lots of question marks there. The show's officially off the rails. But yeah, Rob, when we got 5 guys here on the morning show, which is something we normally don't have, that definitely has the potential to put us at. But we're at the end of the show anyway, so that, hey, if it goes off the rails now, if you're still rocking with us, I appreciate it, because we're live on 4 different platforms right now: YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter. We're live on every platform.
Roku TV.
Yeah, we're on Roku TV as well. Check us out on all those platforms. Like, share, subscribe, comment, wherever you're watching from. We've got a few goals that we're trying to hit for each of the platforms. So if you'd love to help us out, we greatly appreciate it. YouTube, we're just shy of 800 subs, trying to hit that 1K mark. Facebook, we've got 9,000 followers. So appreciate everybody that follows us here on Facebook. And then as well on Twitter, getting those still every stream that we put out, every show that is here on the All Sports All Plays Network, you can find it on all of these platforms. When do they think they'll fire Mike Hughes? Tune in next week to find out. That's a great question. But we wouldn't fire Mike Hughes. Do
it.
Nah. He's got
begging to
sexy
get fired.
face. He's the face of ASAP.
I think it's Rob.
So, hey, I'm just saying, if he's the face of ASAP, I guess Frankie must be the butt. I don't know.
We know what Frankie
Hey, I got a sexy butt. I'm just saying.
I seen it.
He's seen it, and we're going down a real weird road now, but that's sometimes what happens here on ASAP in the morning. But shows later on today and later this week. Later this week, we're going to dive into some college football. Tomorrow, we'll probably get into some top 25, the movers and shakers that happened over the weekend. We will also preview the NLDS. All those games get started tomorrow at 1 o'clock on Tuesday, starting with the I forget who starts on Tuesday. We had that early game.
Atlanta Braves and Phillies.
Astros and Mariners.
That starts at 3 o'clock. Yes, 3 o'clock. Astros, Mariners, and you got the Braves and the Phillies start at 1 o'clock. A lot of those different things as well. Mike and I will be doing some live reactions this week.
Yes, sir.
Some watch-alongs. That'll be fun. So check that out here on All Sports, All Plays Network. This afternoon, we got the afternoon blitz, 1 o'clock. Easy money at 3 o'clock. We've got a lot of great shows here. Unscripted. When's the next time Unscripted is going live? Jay McLovin.
Yeah, it'll be tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern. And we're going to, like I said, we're going to be breaking out a lot of the same things, right? Baseball, football, basketball. We're going to get into a lot of different things. So definitely tune in for that.
Absolutely. Unscripted tomorrow night. I know Frankie's got his New York hat rocking ready to go. Yankees getting started tomorrow. Mike's joining us in the dark back there. He must be recovering this morning. So
or he paid his electric bill.
All the water. But check us out all week long here on All Sports, All Plays Network, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and on Roku. We're everywhere. So check us out there. And gentlemen, it is always a pleasure. It is always a pleasure. Damien, we're not going there. We're not going there, Damien.
What do you say?
We're not going there.
What do you say? Questions?
Yo.
Nope.
We ain't going
not
there.
reading it.
We're not touching that. We're not touching that today.
Literally and figuratively.
Literally and figuratively. Thank you, Jay.
I don't want to talk about it, but I did hear.
Oh, by the way, hey, NHL season is about to get cranking.
Yes.
NHL, baby. Get your teams. I don't want to hear them all.
I did hear, though, Craig, before we get out of here, we might talk about it on the afternoon show, that for some odd reason, speaking to Damien's comment, Deshaun Watson is requesting a trade to the New York Giants organization, but we're not touching that. We're not.
Stop it.
Got him. Got him. But absolutely.
What a time to be alive.
What a time to be alive. Absolutely. But yeah, so check us out on all the different platforms all week long. We got some great content that we bring each and every day. Thank you to everyone that has been joining on all the platforms, interacting with the show. We love interacting with everyone. And for Mike, Jay, Frankie, and Ray, I am Craig. Have a great Monday, everyone. We will see you tomorrow morning on ASAP in the morning from 10 a.m. to noon Eastern, right here on All Sports, All Plays Network. Have a good one. We'll see you tomorrow.
Yankees.
Braves. Braves.
All Sports, All Plays. All Sports, All Plays.
I'm collecting my receipt, too.
All Sports, All Plays. 365, we making a plays. We talking the game, get you to the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety, topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. In the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, like working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. All Sports, All Plays.